Hi everyone, my name is Terry Westwell and today is Tuesday, which means it's time to discuss our book of the week, which is Can't Spell Treason Without T by Rebecca Thorne. First, this is a spoiler-free section, so if you haven't read this book yet, don't worry about it won't be spoiled for you here. There will be some spoiler-related things that I want to discuss, but that'll be later on in the video, and you will get plenty of warning. If you'd like to join in on any of the book discussions, send me your thoughts, comments, or even a short video clip of you discussing the book, then I'll list the next upcoming 4 books in the description below. I will say that this book has been on my shelf now for quite a while. It's a cosy, easy-to-read fantasy with dragons, magic, and LGBTQ main characters. The only reason it's taken me so long to get to this book is because my TBR is like miles long, and unless it's something that I'm super excited for, then, I don't know, it just takes me a little while to get around to them. I rated this book 3 stars. It's not that it's a bad book or that I didn't particularly enjoy it, it's just that it was a nice read, but I wasn't overwhelmed by it for a few reasons. Raina and Kianth dream of opening a friendly bookshop together, serving the very best tea and cakes. Worn wooden floors, plants on every table, and firelight drifting between the rafters, all complemented by love and good company. But Raina is an elite bodyguard for the vengeful queen, and Kianth is the most powerful mage in existence. Leaving their lives seems impossible. Yet they flee to Tawny, a town nestled in the icy peaks of Dragon Country. There, they open the bookstore they always wanted. What follows is a tale of mishap, mystery, dragons, and a murderous queen throwing the biggest temper tantrum. Through it, these women will discover what they mean to each other and their world. If I had to compare this to any other book, it would probably be something like A Tempest of Tea. Again, it's another cozy little fantasy, but instead of dragons, it's vampires and challenges with their own little tea shop. In this book, I don't know, the chapter lengths were fine. They were probably somewhere around a consistent 10 to 20 minute read. And personally for me, at the beginning the pacing was fine, but eventually it just sort of felt like it slowed down a little bit too much. I don't know if it's because it's the first book in a series, which is super common when it comes to fantasy, but it felt like there was a lot going on, but at the same time, nothing happened. As I said, that is super common when it comes to fantasy. Like, the first book is kind of used as a setup to introduce the world and the characters and their issues, but I don't know, I just found that I wasn't as invested as I wanted to be, and it just felt a little bit all over the place. As I said, it is super common, so some people will be completely fine with that. It was still a really easy read with really likeable characters. I also love the fact that the main characters were lesbians. It's not something that is represented enough, especially when it comes to main characters. Like, I've read plenty of books where secondary characters are LGBTQ, but very rarely have I read it where it's the main 2 characters. It was really nice just to read a book about, you know, this couple that just wants to live a life, reading and drinking their tea, you know, not searching for this great big adventure, but it finding them anyway. Like, I do think it was quite sweet, I just didn't love it as much as I was hoping to. So as for the question, would I recommend the book? I think there's certainly books that I would recommend well before this one. I mean, unless you're looking specifically for a much slower paced, cozy LGBTQ romantasy, then sure. Unfortunately, I just don't think it would reach the top of any of my book recs beyond that very specific scope. So will I be reading any more by Rebecca Thorne? I will rarely say no based off of one book alone, unless it was something I really didn't enjoy. So while I won't be picking any books up specifically because it's this author, if I do stumble across a book that I like the sound of and it just so happens to be by Rebecca Thorne, then I'll absolutely give it a try. I don't have any plans to continue with the series. I'm sure that the next book probably does pick up the pace and has a bigger sense of adventure, but I can't be certain that that's the case, and I'm just not particularly eager to continue with the story at the moment. So earlier on in the video, I said that you would get plenty of warning for any upcoming spoilers. This is that moment, so if you haven't read this book yet, I would suggest going doing that first, because beyond this point, there'll definitely be spoilers. Okay, so I liked the main characters, I liked the LGBTQ representation, and even some of the side characters were pretty interesting, but while I did like Reyna and Chianthe, they were also really annoying. Like, it felt like this great opportunity to show this beautiful lesbian relationship where they'd made these big sacrifices for each other because they want to spend their lives together, but 90% of the time it just sort of felt like one of them was running off to go do something stupid, getting lectured about it, only for the other one to then also run off and do something stupid. Like, it was just a constant of them not feeling good enough for one another or insecure and then causing unnecessary mini drama for no reason. It just sort of felt like drama for the sake of having it. Like, I don't think it did them or their relationship justice, and it just sort of, I don't know, it didn't add anything to their relationship or the characters. Like, it didn't feel like a healthy, functioning relationship, but at the same time, it felt like the book was constantly trying to remind us just how amazing the relationship is and how great their communication was, despite the fact that they never addressed or resolved any of their issues. What I will say, though, is that when Reyna was given the egg, that was my favourite part, because that was adorable. Like, if anything was going to convince me to read the next book, it would be that, because one, it was an incredibly sweet moment, but two, a small part of me does want to witness it growing up, learning new things, and building that bond with Reyna. So as I said earlier, it felt like there was quite a lot going on, but nothing happened. Like, I was intrigued by the vengeful queen, and what was her retaliation going to be for Reyna's treason? Well, the queen might be a vengeful and fierce ruler, but she's also kind of thick. Because that also kind of turned out to be a big fat nothing. Like, she accepted Reyna's reasons, like, cool story, you continue to live your cozy life with your girlfriend. Like, because I'm gullible and I believed you pretty much immediately. Barely any explanation needed, I was just expecting more. And then I was pretty excited about the dragons. Like, yeah, we need to go find those dragon eggs. It'll stop any future attacks on the town, and it's this big important quest. But Chianthe couldn't give two shits. Like, whenever it was brought up, it was just like, there's no rush. And I was like, dude, can you just do the thing? Not to mention that pretty much anything to do with finding out what happened or where they might be was just two side characters disappearing for a length of time to return with maybe a smidge of information, and it was really underwhelming. It was just a constant cycle of plot happening to the characters then reacting and moving on in the most anticlimactic way. I love romantasy and fantasy in general, but I do sometimes struggle when it's a slower pace, usually because, you know, they're taking their time with world building, politics, and mystery. And while this book did have mystery, it didn't have much drive. And I wouldn't say that the world building or the politics were particularly complex. So I'm not really sure why it felt as slow as it did, other than the fact that not much happened, while at the same time, it just felt like they were trying to do too much with it. It was kind of all over the place and wasn't very well fleshed out, so it ended up falling a little flat. But let me know what you thought. Did you enjoy the book? Next week we're discussing Metal Slinger by Rachel Schneider, so don't forget to get your thoughts and comments in by Sunday the 18th of May at the latest to be a part of the discussion. You can now do this on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram or Discord. The following week we're discussing The Crash, but don't forget, if you do need a little bit longer to read a book, we do now list the next 4 books down below along with the discussion dates. That way you can choose the genre that best suits you and the best time frame to read it in. Thank you all for joining, and if you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, it's always appreciated, and I will see you next week. Bye! If you like romance, fantasy, or even thriller, basically anything fiction book related, then I suggest you head on over to the channel's intro video, where you can find out more information on how you can take part in this online book club. We announce books at least 4 weeks in advance, and we accept your bookish feedback in a wide manner of ways. Post your comment below a video, send in a voice note, or even send me a short video clip of you discussing the book. Alternatively, you can just send me a direct message.